Wait,
Sorry?
Abba. I
What?
watch your content all the time. You guys, I feel like, fight really well for minorities, and you talk about people like living within the system, right?
Not
Is
sexual
that wrong?
minorities.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel too. Then why are we appealing to the majority that's there to f us? Like, I don't get it.
Wait, hold up.
I swear to God, I'm not trying to be racist. Here's the problem. It's this weird intersection right now with human biology and the environment that we built for ourselves that caters to parts of our biology that were never supposed to be rewarded that much. We've become obsessed. We've become so good at utilizing technology that we have adapted too much of our lives around ourselves, and we've come to this like understanding that all forms of friction are bad. No. I'm not putting fault in. I'm saying that people have access now to infinite dopamine buttons in front of them. That now you have to compete with TikTok.
This is gonna sound so f***ed up.
Hold on, just don't make it personal. Just make it general.
No.
It is kind of funny. Wait, how Lab talks about how she's like so against misogyny while being a sex worker. Is that even like a thing?
Ooh, she's gotcha. Check and mate.
Wait, how are those positions incongruent? I'll buy it.
Yeah, I'm
She
really
doesn't
confused.
gotcha.
It's kind of basically inviting it.
It's kind of what?
It's inviting it.
How is being a sex worker inviting misogyny?
Her brain's on Groiper. Her brain's on Groiper. She
No,
literally
I'm just trying to ask a question.
No ad homs, please. Let her reply.
I just think it's clearly inviting it. I don't know.
You gotta answer. So this is like. So do you think that like women that do sex work deserve to be misogynied or?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got me. You got me there. Never mind. You win.
Damn, that's rough. And it all crumbles. It all crumbles.
Yeah. Never mind. Okay. Based. No, not based. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Well,
Okay, hold on. How do you square away you wearing like booby tops and stuff on stream? Don't you feel like you're engaging because?
I haven't been doing that. The Groipers won't let me.
Okay.
Okay, wait. How do you feel about that? How do you feel that you can't wear like the clothing that you want?
Watching Lab, I'm like embarrassed I ever even like tiptoed anywhere near that.
Watching,
Actually,
I've never.
I might make an argument. Brittany, you were putting on clothes because the Groipers paid you to. Is that not also just changing what you wear for men? I mean, you put on a burqa because
And I'm respecting the audience that I'm in front of.
I don't know if that's I don't know is that respecting the audience or is that just putting clothes on because men told you
You're
to?
in front of like a really Christian audience, and they are obviously
Putting a burqa on is respectful.
Holding up
The burqa was a joke. That was a meme.
I'm not gonna lie though. Have you ever seen burqa porn? That shit is.
Okay.
How much burqa porn is there realistically? I don't believe this.
Hijab stuff and burqa stuff is fire because there's the whole taboo element of not seeing what's underneath the thing, and all of a sudden, as soon as you pop it off, they're like, blah, blah. That shit's fire, bro.
You guys are. I don't believe you. That's weird.
So yeah. So
What do you mean you don't believe me? Hold on, you don't believe that taboo?
Last taking requests.
You don't
right?
believe that taboo topics are really?
I don't know. I never buy into that. That like, oh my God, since I can't see that, it's so taboo. That's weird. I don't know.
Hold up.
Hold on, I'm being judgmental. I shouldn't be.
You don't imagine.
How
that
is
the
it
fantasy,
different, Brittany?
Hold up. You don't imagine that the fantasy of not knowing is incredibly enticing to people.
Not that much, no. But maybe I just like seeing naked people.
Oh, have you never seen somebody in like a silky robe or a long robe, and you imagine what their curves are like underneath? Is that?
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, take that shit off. Women hate me, okay? They're like, what kind of lingerie do you want me to wear? I'm like, I don't want you to wear lingerie. I just want you fucking naked, okay? Yeah, every woman fucking hates me. That's right. I don't need to see that fancy shit. I can go look at that in Victoria's Secret catalog. I got a naked person in front of me. That's what I want to see, okay?
God damn, this man just said take it off. That was so aggressive.
Exactly.
I was referring to women you're not sleeping with consistently. Like just.
Whoa, well, I would never imagine sexually any woman that I'm not actively sexual with, so I can't even fathom doing that, Abba. Nice try, though.
I appreciate the fact that you respect the ladies so
Thank
much.
you.
I will
do.
say, though, to Brittany's point earlier where she was talking about the whole...
Hating
sex
women?
work
Oh, sorry.
and the whole sex work and fermenting misogyny. You don't think that in a sex-deprived society that's increasingly more sex-deprived, people are getting laid less and less and less and less. You don't think that the whole idea of like... Because if you think about sex work and like OnlyFans models, I'm not speaking to Lab specifically, I'm just talking about general. A lot of them generate most of their income and most of their money, not necessarily from like the content always, but actually from the interactions and the messages. And so I wonder if...
On that?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Do you have data on that? Like, how do you know? This is like entirely anecdotal.
Absolutely, it is anecdotal. I was just listening to podcasts with some of the largest OnlyFans content creators.
I don't think it's necessarily the messaging. I think it's selling personalized videos. I think that's really common.
Yes, exactly. So they'll like have conversations with these people where it's a little bit like... But it won't even be them specifically. They actually have managers who kind of do this stuff, and so these are for the larger creators I'm talking about. Because with them, they don't do everything personalized on their OnlyFans. They actually have a lot of people who work underneath them to help them manage it, support it, and so yeah, they do like personal requests where you get a lot of bonus money, and yeah, that's how you get like the strongest repeat customers oftentimes. Am I saying something abnormal?
No, I've heard this before. I know a couple of large OF people that do it. I've also heard other women say that that's not the case. Like I think Madame Genevieve says she personally responds to every message, so I don't know. But
right, but how big is Madame Genevieve?
no, I understand you. I've heard some surprising larger ones say, but I don't know what the actual data is. I'd be curious to know. I've heard of some very large ones that do pay other people. I've heard of smaller ones that pay other people, and then I've heard of some very large ones that do it personally, and then others that pay other people.
But you can imagine as it gets larger, you need to streamline a lot of stuff. So you hire more people to make sure that the process gets smooth.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the difference between dealing with 100 people versus dealing with 100,000 fans is completely different. Like the amount of labor that's involved is exponential.
Yeah, like when I'm sexting with girls and shit, half the time that's f***ing Ninu or like one of my assistants. Like I don't have time to keep up with all the women that are messaging me. I know what you mean.
Being a giga chat is hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so the point I was trying to make
on the panel.
What was that?
Sorry, did her mic just cut out?
I said there's at least 2 on the panel right now.
2 big sex workers that are like large scale?
No, 2 women that Steven is.
Stop! Go to the next part. What were you saying, Ebba?
Okay. All right,
Grow the f up.
Yeah, grow up.
So I wonder in this kind of sex deprived world where like there's a tremendous amount of frustration, if this kind of like personalized content where there is no hope for any kind of intimacy between involved, but there's like finances being siphoned out, and there's a bit of that kind of relationship where, listen, I'm not saying it's inherently immoral, but it is a bit, on the edge. I wonder if that doesn't ferment anti-female sentiment, being the fact that like it's extremely transactional on one end, but for the person who's actually paying for it, there's a deepening desire for more.
Based.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's honest to God, a lot of my takes around that are gonna be similar to like takes on gambling. Like when I look at gambling, personally, I don't know if I believe that you can engage with gambling in a responsible manner, because it feels like your brain has to be fucked to find any enjoyment in that. But I mean, there's a lot of people that do it. Like, should it be illegal? I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about gambling?
Gambling? Mm-hmm. In my ideal society, it'd be illegal.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I also don't feel like all forms of gambling are the same. For whatever reason, I feel like I see sports betting this different, but maybe I don't know if that's cultural bias. But I have to really sit and think on it. But I do think that everything that gambling brings outside of like the economic benefit, I think is just bad. And so I would ban it outright.
Like I think
Pulling out is a gamble.
Good one.
What was that? But
yeah.
I also feel the same about like cigarettes and a lot of different things. Like people might not like the ideas, but if I'm thinking about what's best for society, and if I can look at it and just say like overwhelmingly this is really, really bad, then I would probably do it.
It's hard to tell if people it's hard to value people's autonomy when it comes to engaging with certain things, because it feels to me, and I could be wrong, this would be an interesting one to get Madame Genevieve's take, because she participates in this. I feel like it's impossible, no offense to anybody, but I feel like it's impossible to have a healthy like conversational relationship with somebody you're paying for the conversation. Like if you're like paying an OnlyFans girl to talk, that feels like it's don't what?
Yeah.
Don't therapists do that?
Different.
That's a help.
That's a way different style of conversation.
You said it's impossible to what?
I feel like it's impossible to have healthy conversations if you're paying like a OnlyFans girl for it. That feels that feels like that interaction to me feels like it's always going to be.
I think it makes them resent.
You think it's always bad?
Yes. I guess it's possible that it's not.
You think that no one can ever benefit from it and understand that it's an engagement in flirting or some fantasy that they're never going to be able to attain, but they find it's going to be worth it for them in that moment.
I think that it's possible that it could be okay, but it's impossible to know from the outside, right? Because everybody's going to say that it is.
No, you can know, right? There could be an 80-year-old dude who got like one leg, he's bedbound, and he's like at the end of his fucking life, and he'd just rather flirt and throw some cash at some OF girls.
There might be like a
who
terminally
the fuck are you
ill
to stop
person
him?
who's like on the death's door. So you are true. Okay, my bad. Let me.
I am true.
Rewind that.
Thank you.
You crushed me on that. There are terminally ill men that could engage in sex work knowing that nothing more will ever come of it because they're literally days away from dying. Okay.
Yeah,
but I think
I'm here to advocate for them.
Okay, well, good job. Consider them advocated
let's
for.
argue for the exception to the rule. Like,
I mean, they don't even need to be terminally ill, right? They could just be horribly disfigured and know that they're never getting laid otherwise.
Yeah, but I know, but like, listen to the, when you start to make arguments like that, this is just what I would kind of like consider, is you're basically arguing that these types of like outlets are literally last resorts for like emotionally devoid freaks that will never find like any sort of compassion or empathy from another like human being. Like this, and now, so if we take that away from like the 1% you're talking about, and we look at the 99% that engage, does that still sound like a healthy transaction?
Right. So are you saying that even though this is the best deal they could get, it's still exploitative?
It's not necessarily, well, in one sense, it could be seen as exploitative, and then in another sense, because I can't say 100%. There might be some people that engage with it, right? But it feels like it lends itself hardcore to exploitation, and then it feels like it lends itself towards like an unhealthy engagement that these men are going to have then with women in the future, if like the only
I would say even beyond sex work, I think there's even content creators who, either playing on the fact that, like, I don't think you have to reveal the fact that you're in a relationship or not, but when you play on the fact that you're potentially single, and then kind of like almost hinting at the audience and your availability and your like been doing all this stuff, I wouldn't be as severe with that. But I do think when it comes to sex work and the way that a lot of I've seen the messages go across, that there is a one-sided dynamic in which one's paying for a service that is inherently leading to them having a bad outcome.
Yeah,
like,
it's a little funny because nobody.
It would be very hard for me to see a world in which these guys who are lonely in this kind of situations aren't coming out of this at some point with a more negative information, when pretty much this girl just kind of took advantage of him in a way.
Yeah, it's funny because nobody brought this up, but like nobody seemed to have a problem that, Amaranth essentially was lying the entire time about being single, but she was like capitalizing on that.
People definitely brought it up.
Okay, I felt like most of the conversation was around like the husband stuff, but like, oh no, actually that is true. People did bring it up. There was a panel I was invited to actually. You're right. I missed that, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to consider because here's the weird part, and I'll even go a little step further and I'll say it feels a little rapey because like the question is like, why are you hiding that? And the implication is that if you weren't hiding it, they wouldn't engage with you otherwise. Which sounds very weird when we talk about sexual.
What do you mean it feels rapey?
Okay.
As in when you're concealing something in a sexual manner because you feel like if you don't conceal
so dramatic.
Did you? Okay.
But go on.
Were you just gonna hold on? Excuse me. Were you just gonna cut me off in the middle of my f***ing answer to call me dramatic? Hold on. Shut the f*** up. Let me finish my f***ing answer. Stop. Jesus. Stop.
Yeah. Let him finish.
What I'm saying is that like if you're going to do something sexually with somebody and then you conceal something that you know would cause them to change their feelings about it sexually, that feels in most contexts it feels a little rapey. I'm not saying it's rape, or you can find a different word if that word triggers you. Then find a different way to explain it. But it feels a little bit weird. Okay,
false advertising.
Yeah, false advertising or duped in regards to sex. Yeah, it feels a little strange.
Deceptive. I would say women who will lie about their weight, or men who will lie about seeing somebody or something like that.
Maybe catfishing might be a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
It's Brittany Simon. I'm listening to this. I've been in sex works for years. I've known sex workers. I've known full service sex workers. And we're having just completely different life experiences when it comes to this stuff. So hence bubbles, right? So when I hear this, you guys are mixing like ethics and morals and industries and capitalism, and it's like there's no solution here because no one's getting to the root of it, which I know Dan was trying to say. But I think I'm getting frustrated. I also need a break from work, but I'm getting frustrated listening to everyone because no one here has a healthy relationship with sex work, and you need to hear more from those sex workers because we exist and we're very happy.
Those people might exist, but the reality is probably the vast majority, like 80% or 90% plus of sex workers have an unhealthy relationship with it, and probably 80 to 90% plus of like sex work consumers have an unhealtly relationship with it. So it is true that there probably are some that do well with it, but most probably don't, right?
I want to know, like,
Wait,
Wait, let her finish. Wait, let Brittany finish. I'm banning. Jesus, fuck you guys.
So one of the issues I have with this is that I think most workers that I speak to feel like they're being taken advantage of in their industries, from streaming to construction to, religious work. So for me, I think the issue is never the thing we're doing, but the way we're doing it. So I'm okay with transforming it, but since we all share different ethics and ideas about the world, we're never going to share the same idea of how to make it the best for everyone, right? So I think that's the issue here ultimately, is that I can't agree with any of you because none of you are expressing what I've experienced, and I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but you guys are making it sound like what we're all doing is like, you know, just negative and manipulation, which some
it's
sex workers do that.
It's not about all of it though. It's about how does the
Right.
majority engage with it. So like for instance, like I could never do a monogamous relationship. I will exclusively do open relationships. And if Melina requests a change, she's going to be single. I'm signing the papers. That being said, I would never, ever, 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 ever advocate for anybody to do this type of relationship. And if anybody asked my advice, I'd say don't do it. I wouldn't use my positive example or my positive experiences with it to say like, oh, everybody ought to do this. I would say that for the most part, it's going to be a disaster. You're going to run into a lot of problems. Don't do it. I heavily recommend against it.
I only think it's a disaster because people don't have the tools to interact with it in a healthy way, and because everyone's so afraid of people just like learning, adults learning. You know what I mean? Look, I've read all the books on open relationships. Like, I've read all the books on polyamorous relationships. I've done the work, and that's the thing. Most people aren't even doing that. So of course you're fucking up on your relationships. Like,
yeah, but if most people aren't doing it in another world, then it might be
but that's
okay.
on them. That's
yeah, we can. You get no. It's not. It's not just. It's not just on them. It's in the society we live in. Like that's what we have to engage with.
Well, what part of society? Where? Canada, Iraq, here.
As in the vast majority of all the world through time and space.
Especially in first world countries.
Like there is no country where most of the people in this country engage with sex work in a healthy manner, right?
Because we haven't.
Okay, but
well,
sex work isn't. Sex
Go
work
ahead,
isn't as like out of the norm as a poly or an open relationship. So like even using that comparison is just like, I don't think it's analogous.
Wait, what?
And I think it probably loads it more on your side than to support women or even men who are really enthusiastic and happy with their sex work experience.
I just don't know how. I think that's probably a really small minority.
Well, that's the problem. Like, it's only a minority because a majority they don't even have access to the idea that they could be polyethically or, oh my gosh, sex work ethically. I never thought about it before. So that's why advocates try to tell people you can do it another way, right? You don't have to do it this way, but the system might still be against you because the system is anti-sex work. It's not even when they try to help sex workers, they always mess it up. So I'm saying no one's helping here. If we're going to demonize and look, this is your one life on earth. And if you don't think consensual adults can have consensual relationships with one another, as if the clients don't know it's a fantasy. Yes, some clients don't know, but most, or at least most know it because they're paying for it. It's a fantasy like video games. If they have a cognitive dissonance with it, that's fair, but that's on them, right?
Okay. So
wait, let me just ask one more thing. Just real quick. Stephen, do you think that when it comes to sex worker experience in a time where people don't really like women's like financial security and independence, don't you feel like at this moment that the negative stories are going to be heavily like put on a pedestal as compared to like positive stories?
Yeah, I'm going completely by anecdote. I could be wrong, but I mean, like, I have an overwhelming amount of, like, admittedly anecdotal experience.
People love to hear the negative aspect that someone feels like victimized, someone feels ruined, destroyed. Like, people love those train wreck stories more than they like to hear about a woman who feels empowered, emboldened, and is really good in her career.
That is absolutely not true.
Lav, it is literally your success story right now.
Yeah, what do you Lav?
My
Literally, she just
success
defended
story.
you by proxy.
No, she didn't. That is not my success story. I built a platform before I ever talked about what the fuck. I've been getting more pushback than I ever have in my fucking career talking about this. I've put shit on the line that I did not have to put on the line. People on the fucking left were bolstering me up every single fucking second of the day when I said that I loved sex work, when I said that I loved my job. People started fucking hating me when I started to bring up criticism of sex work.
Okay, so
I don't
here's
know what the fuck you're talking about.
That's not the conversation we're even talking about here.
Yes, that is the conversation you were just talking about. What?
Okay. We're gonna just take a breather because I don't want this to be another like as a hypocrite.
Oh, sorry. Wait, no one was even bringing that up. Wait.
Oh, the energy was there. I want to hear what everyone wants to say.
She literally just insinuated that. Don't even do that. So, I think what I was gonna ask before is that I understand what you're saying in regards to a lot of people don't have a good understanding of sex work or don't know how to engage with it ethically or to do it right, and so the problem is in the people engaging with the tool itself. But if there ever came a time where we looked at a study and it said that lonely men are engaging with this in a toxic manner, it's fomenting negative emotions in regards to women, I think there's an argument to be made about how we should run it. Not that it should be banned or that it should be outlawed or that it should be demonized, but there is a real argument to be made that the way the system works right now is in one in which it basically takes advantage of dudes who are lonely. And now that's not the way that all sex workers engage with it, but there is a tremendous amount of that online. And I would even argue it's not even just sex work. I feel like that dynamic even exists on Instagram with regards to how some of these women engage with that platform. And so just in content creation in general, I think that I understand why women might use these tools to make money. And I'm not here to say, oh, they're bad people or this, that. What I am saying is I think the impact of these is negative, and I think this traditionally does ferment more anti-female sentiment as a result.
Yeah, I gotta say, based off the bubble that could be happening, I'm just in so many gay, queer bubbles. All of us are sex workers, or all of us are strippers, or all of us are doing porn. So like, and we're all very happy and fine. So it's very, well, I mean, minus our normal mental health issues, right? But like, it's not the porn. It could be the porn, but it's not the porn most of the time. So I think that's the issue I have listening to this, is maybe I'm just too gay for this conversation. Which is weird, because like a lot of people here are queer, so it's a little confusing to me, I guess, that everyone's talking from a very heterosexual perspective. But for every guy that's gonna be taken advantage of, there's a girl out there being taken advantage of. And then for every girl that's having a great time, there's a customer that's having a great time. Also, I just have to say this out loud. So many of my male friends like have sex worker girlfriends and wives that they met through their campsites or met through stripping. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, it makes sense. Sex workers.
I feel like that's like I feel like that's an even worse indictment of what you're saying, though. Like
because adults get to fall in love. They get to work together. They get to
but like listen, but the message is that what I can if I find like the right girl and I donate enough money to her, like unironically, like that's.
So that's where the mental health comes in. So the issue is you can't go to your therapist and think you're going to marry them. You can't go to your doctor and think you're going to marry them. Who goes to their Walmart?
Yeah, but that happens, right? That's the issue.
No.
And that's what people are hoping will happen.
No, it's not that, because what you're describing, Brittany, is a bit different. It's not like going to your therapist and think you're going to marry them. When they're talking with these sex workers, there's a lot of flirtation going back and forth. There's an implicit thing of like, ooh, you might get to see more of me. You got to so that's not the same as going to your therapist and think you're going to fall in love. These women don't just happen to exist and then these dudes fall for them. They're playing into that to make money.
Well, I agree 100%. There are bubbles where this is happening, but I think those people want it. I think the men are
but they don't want the game.
No, I disagree. I think they are cognitive adults that are paying money to a woman they've never met and assuming something of her, which is their own projection onto her. It is, and she, yes, Abba, she plays into it because she's making money, which is the game. I know so many full service sex workers, and their customers would be so upset if those women were honest with them, because it would ruin the fantasy. So for every angry man, there's a client that needs that. So you have to go to the right sex worker as a customer to find what you actually want. Does that make sense?
Everything you're saying makes sense. I just don't think we agree that it's happening as much as you're saying. Like, I understand that there might be some people that feel that way, but I would estimate that this is like, you're talking about like the 2% of like people that engage with it.
Okay, but hold up. You don't see the Amaranth situation in which she's intentionally doing this in order to maximize profits? Like, it's not that they might be upset and they might unsubscribe if they found out the truth. Well, good. They should be privy of this information, because the way that the relationship works is that she gets to siphon money out of them so long as she engages in deceptive practice. One can argue that yes, these men would get upset if they learned the truth, and the truth should still be told. The issue is not whether or not they want the lie or whatever. The thing is this ethical, because you're using this as a means to make money? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like it's more than ethical, because I know YouTubers who don't even tell people they have families. They tell people totally different things in public. So
but their income isn't contingent though on the other people knowing.
But it kind of is, because their content is predicated on the person they're presenting, and the audience is falling in love with that person.
Yeah, but if you were saying okay, so here's an example of that could be bad, but it's so hard to draw an analogy. If I was on stream saying some shit like, man, I don't have kids and I really wish I could like adopt somebody, like I wonder how young my audience is, that's what would make it comparable, right? Because just saying like, oh, you fall in love with this person who doesn't tell you about my family is a lot different than me like sexting with you, being like, oh, it'd be cool if we could be together and blah 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 blah, and you think I'm single. That's a way different thing.
So the girlfriend experience, depending on how you
GFE shit is
customer,
like,
right. If a woman literally like, the man does not understand what's happening, that's for Brittany super unethical. But the problem is like, I know too many of these men. I am a sex worker. They talk to me. They want it. So that's why I don't engage in it, because I can't tell what's going on. It's too confusing for me. I don't want them to misunderstand what I'm doing. I don't want to be their girlfriend. But like, that happens. I was on Kyla's dating show, and this guy slid into my DMs via the show, and I said, you cannot use the show to slide into my DMs. But he literally tried, and Kyla's like, stop. It doesn't matter what you do. If the wrong person is in the room, they will misunderstand and they will cross boundaries. So that's why no is so powerful as a sex worker or a client. You have to say no. You have to be smart about what you're paying for. I'm trying to give agency to people. I know I'm talking for a minority. I'm saying I understand the system is broke. The majority is suffering. And I'm saying it's not helping because these solutions are just the same solutions. The anti-sex solution, the religious solution. I'm saying, what if education and reform was better? What if we gave sex workers and their clients options and then accepted that some toxic clients and some toxic sex workers just exist?
The problem is what the natural inclination of like humans are, and if that could be overcome with some level of education. So like, I would compare this conversation 100% to the conversations that should be having about casual sex. I love casual sex. It'd be sweet if everybody could have it all the fucking time because that's like the most base thing ever. But it seems like people have a really difficult time engaging with it in a healthy manner. And it seems like right now the answer is probably we should way cut the fuck back on it because a lot of people are having a lot of problems with it.
Well, who's we, I guess? Like, yes, but that's so fucked up that we're all doing it. We're like, but you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's not fucked up. I have no problem. I have when a girl tells me some shit like, I've been raped 4 times in a row, I have no problem saying, it's time for you, honey. It's time for you to stop. But that's so many people's experiences, and people aren't even comfortable saying because it sounds victim blaming to even be like, maybe it's time to like pump the brakes a little bit, and this isn't like for everybody, because it seems like even suggesting that maybe there's too much casual sex comes off as either being sex negative or victim blaming or whatever.
Maybe that's the part yeah, go ahead.
Hold
go
up,
ahead.
Brittany, I don't know if you talk to ladies often about this, but like I feel like most women relate to the fact that they're pretty unhappy with hookup culture, and they feel like a lot of the casual sex that they had wasn't good for them. And so I'm not saying this from an angle of like, oh, we're having it, so we just want to gatekeep it. It's nothing to do with that. My experience in talking to most adult women past the age of 27 is that their experience with casual sex has been overwhelmingly bad, irrespective of whether or not they identify as very liberal or conservative. And so if you're seeing that this sexual liberation movement has brought about some discomfort for people, and that most people in most polls that I've read reply with a lot of discomfort when it comes, or just negative emotions when it comes to hookup culture itself or all this stuff, I think there's an argument to be made that maybe this behavior isn't good. No,
for sure. But I think the issue we're having is that instead of like, for me, it's all about every person's going to have individual joy. Some people, celibacy is going to work for them. For other people, it's going to be having a slut moment, right? So for me, I meet tons, hundreds, thousands of positive stories from people all the time. I'm very social, who love their orgies and sex work and porn. But I can't anecdotally use that. But I also don't want to make other people suffer and say you have to be a sex like orgy person. Like, no, be celibate, be religious. I think the answer should always be do what makes you happy. Don't do what you think you should do because society tells you to. If the culture is hookup culture and it's not working for you, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? But peer pressure is so a part of the narrative.
Yeah, and I love and appreciate your mind, but I think this is something that took me a long time to realize this. I think you have to recognize that you might be like a bit exceptional, and not everybody. Like there are a lot of people that need societal rails. Like they can't. They actually can't make. Absolutely. Like when you talk about like when you talk about like people can engage with casual sex in healthy ways and blah 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 blah. That is true. People engage with heroin in healthy ways. Believe it or not, there are lots of people that have only done it a couple times, and it's fine. But it's okay. I think it's a general rule to be like, heroin, probably shouldn't even try it because most people can't. Even though it's theoretically possible in the right settings with the right education and the right tools and the right friends, everybody could try heroin once or twice and be chill as long as your life is okay. And you're, but like,
Bruh, that's a perfect example. You don't do that with casual sex. When you talk about people's engagement with casual sex and consent and boundaries, you do not all of a sudden think about the harm that they can get into and become really sex negative. You manage to be sex positive and give people good advice that would not put them in situations that they end up.
I agree. I'm just saying, but I think what me and Erin are saying is sometimes the advice.
You don't do that for sex work. I don't think.
Well,
I'm a little bit confused. How is it sex negative to say that some people who maybe feel
it's not
pressured into
it's not sex it's not sex negative to enforce like consent and boundaries. It's sex negative to be like no one should have sex. You are a whore if you ever have sex, and you should wait till marriage. Like that is the anti-sex arc. And he doesn't ever go that direction. So he's
the reality is that I think that if only men that were capable of engaging with sex workers online for OnlyFans, if only the responsible ones did it, I don't think it would be an industry. I think that it only works because there are so many people that engage with it in an irresponsible manner. That's like my feeling.
Absolutely.
Okay, I agree. I agree 100% with that, but that's how I think the whole world has been built. Like from arms dealers to drugs to fucking automobiles.
Well, no.
Like,
or, sorry,
you know what I mean? I just don't see a difference.
I totally disagree. I think
punished are people who engage in sex work, even though it's the oldest career in the whole world, and that's the problem. It's the last front for us to make a safety net for it.
Okay, firstly,
for people to do it.
It's not the oldest career. The oldest career is probably like berry picking or something. Okay, number one.
It's a saying, Destiny.
I know it is, but I'm just saying it's not even true. Okay, but also I disagree. I think that we actually super have built society around guardrails. I think arguably people will point to like a lot of religious rules and go like, oh, it's unholy to eat pork. And it's like, was it really? Or was there just like a lot of like disgusting pork meat that was like making people sick? So we just put this in a fucking book. So, right? It seems like for all of society, the goal, and I agree with you, and I love you, and I love your ideas that if everybody could be perfectly educated and engaged with responsible manners, that's what I would like. But it seems like we kind of need a lot of guardrails in society because once these start to fall.
I'm okay with that, but do these guardrails fuck me over?
Yes,
yeah, they would. Yeah.
I oppose it. Then I oppose it.
Okay.
You should oppose it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're in the interest of the majority, that's how you enact a lot of these things.
Oh, okay. Wait,
sorry,
Abba. I watch your content all the time. You guys, I feel like, fight really well for minorities, and you talk about people like living within the system, right?
Not sexual minorities.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel too. Then why are we appealing to the majority that's there to fuck us? Like, I don't get it.
Wait, hold up. If you're telling me that having a law that allows black people to coexist with white people is somehow an issue, you'd have to point to me how that's actually the case. Or if you want to do the same thing for Arabs and all this stuff, you'd have to really point the case. And then if you want to do that and it was like making it much worse, then we can have that.
Or like, oh my God, here's I swear to God, I'm not trying to be racist, but I think this is like the perfect example, okay? I think it's a one-to-one analogy. Would ABBA be okay?
Not trying to be racist, but
would ABBA be okay if there was a group of black men that got incredibly successful doing blackface? If the majority of the audiences were white guys that were just getting a racist laugh, if a lot of the black guys doing it felt kind of shitty, but it made really good money, and it was like, okay, like, would that be something that ABBA would defend?
I mean, that would have to depend on what's the implication. So if you're telling me, are you asking me if I would ban it?
No, would you defend it? Would you say like, oh, I think that, fuck it, as long as they're getting their bag, like, whatever, it's okay? Or would you say like, maybe like these guys doing blackface is probably not a good thing. We shouldn't be okay with that as a society.
Doing blackface, or like there's black people painting their own face in blackness? Like, I wouldn't care personally.
Or doing, I'm sorry, hold on. Or I'm thinking minstrel shows. That's what I should be saying. Sorry.
Okay. So if I see black dudes doing minstrel shows, would I defend their right to do it?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Oh. Wait, then why wouldn't you defend sex workers?
But that's not the same thing. I don't think the implications of
the implication would be that like the minstrel shows are like it's people engaging in like their own self-destruction, and most of the people that are getting a laugh on it are probably like it's detrimental to society. Black people for sex work, it would be women and the people engaging in the humor. Like
okay. I see what you're saying. So you're saying it's basically a net negative for society. Would I defend it?
And for the people like participating, and it's probably a net negative for them too. Like sex work is probably a negative overall for women inside and outside of it. Yeah.
First, I'd go about it like just demonstrably showing that it's negative for society, and then if I did, I'd probably say, I probably wouldn't defend it. I'd probably say it should be gone.
Okay, I will say sex work or anything can be negative for society that isn't ready to have that conversation, just like weed was like so demonized, right? But slowly and surely communities learn. But in the process of waiting and everyone learning, people are being jailed and imprisoned. So the issue I'm going to have is a little bubbly. Okay, I'm going to go down my 2 bubble. We're dealing with a system now that will imprison women and men and theys for doing sex work, for doing drugs, for doing all these things. And I have to wait while the majority figures it the out. And the problem is like, it's not going to happen that fast. So my advocacy has to be centered around the minority. So I actually need to take myself out of this conversation. I apparently lose now.
you need to leave?
No. I'm saying that because I'm thinking about the minority.
Yeah. Which makes
about
sense.
The majority. Yeah, but like
which makes sense.
But you're right.
But the way I see society trending, and the fact that loneliness is increasing, and that people who are sexless are increasing, and the people who are reporting feeling lonely or turning to sex work as a result is increasing. There's a concern that I have that's going to be an issue going forward. And so I don't disagree with the idea that if people could engage ethically and better, if they were more educated and all this stuff, if that was a future that was possible, I'm all for it. I just don't believe that is possible. And I don't think the matter at hand is a matter of, I don't think it's necessarily just a matter of education. I think it's also a matter of just a loneliness issue.
Totally.
And a lack of intimacy issue. And I don't think you can fix that with education. Unless you're going to mandate some kind of law, like everybody, one woman for one man, like some crazy like that. I don't think you can remedy a lot of the unhealthy relations that people are building with these platforms.
Okay, so I would say like the fundamental issue here is like the theory of consent and like the philosophy of consent. Because if people understood like you are not owed, like loneliness is such a pandemic, I know it is. But I also know that people have it in their head, and I don't know what part of media gave it to them, that they were somehow owed companionship, friendship, connection, intimacy. And I didn't grow up in that world where I was owed that stuff. That was stuff you earned by being a respectful, wonderful person. And hopefully people would see that and love you, right? But now I'm seeing this world where people can just go around talking mad shit or doing horrible things, and they're like, why doesn't anyone love me? And I'm like, you're not trustworthy, you're not safe, you don't make people feel good. So the issue I'm seeing is that people don't have the tools on all fronts, not to mention neurodivergency, lack of education, a misunderstanding with social cues. Like, there's so many things, but ultimately, I think people just feel entitled to intimacy in a way that I cannot process, because I've never thought I was owed it. But then again, you know, I had sex at 22 for the first time. I was a slow learner.
Can I ask you, do you not recognize the ways in which our society has not engineered itself to make intimacy less accessible in a lot of ways, or more difficult? Like, you know, people talk about the past like they worked hard. I don't believe the people in the past worked that hard to get intimacy.
No,
and
it just happened because that's how society was built. Right? Like you
so
say
this
that,
idea that people are not owed it, like I agree they're not owed it, but it's different when things are like engineered to make it much more difficult. I think there's an argument to be made that we have to make adjustments as we create these new technologies.
Yeah, and I don't even think that idea of like people aren't owed it. It's a pretty fundamental part of the human experience. Like maybe people aren't owed it, but it should be relatively easily accessible if you follow like the normal life human experience. And if it's not, that's probably indicative of huge societal problems.
Are you talking about something? I'm sorry, can I just ask one? Like, are you talking about sexual closeness and intimacy? Or are you talking about familiar?
Sexual and romantic. Sexual and romantic.
I have a
sexual
huge
and romantic.
family. I have like
no, sexual and romantic, not incest. Sexual and romantic.
Only okay. Sorry. Okay, then go ahead.
Sorry. You wanted to say something, Britt?
Oh,
well,
I was.
yeah.
Hello. I was just gonna say
Sushi.
that most people that buy like sex workers and most people that buy porn on the internet are like over the age of 50. And they probably did have intimacy when they were younger and just like grew out of it. And society like throws out a lot of older people, and it's hard for them to get back into those spaces. And so I would say that it's not necessarily the problem of they're not able to get intimacy.
Wait, doesn't that sounds like it is a problem then?
No, but they had intimacy when they were younger. And then
they had, but like something that people aren't aware of is like.
Did you say that most people who buy?
Shut the fuck up! You're so fucking annoying! Don't fucking talk to me!
Stop! Why are you doing this? Stop!
Please don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me.
You're literally, you came in the room with her. You can't scream at her to not talk when you're in the room.
I don't want her to address me. I don't want her to address me to my face.
You said something so stupid. You said something.
Okay, stop. Wait, listen to what just happened. Two grown adults are in a room and you can't have a discussion with another living human being, and you wonder why the world is chaotic. This is on us as a community, on a society level, right? Girl, like, I don't know what your story is, but like, if you can't have Lav address you, you shouldn't be here. And the fact that you don't know.
I think the world is too chaotic. I didn't say that.
No, you're creating the chaos right now. Like, you're literally creating it.
Why?
This is amazing. Okay, so anyways, this is my point, right? We're not going to get together and we're not going to be cohesive. So we have to be smooth within bubbles, and the majority cannot come up with a concept that's going to work for anyone. That's my theory.
I think that I agree with you, and I think that humans oftentimes work against their own self-interest in these ways, and there's a lot of people who are not taking accountability for that. However, I don't always think about responsibility when it comes to larger scale issues. I think about what's the best outcome for society as a whole. And so whilst I agree with you on the individual level, I think that if I had to look at an ideal society and the way it engineered itself, sometimes you got to do that in spite of the fact that people can't do for themselves what they need to.
There's a do you know who is it? Jim Jeffries, Australian comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of his skit on like guns or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got popular.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you were thinking the same one, but he's got a really funny one where it's like, there's some really great shit that would be fun if all of us could do, but John had to fuck it up and shoot himself in the face, and now we don't get to have guns. Like shit like that. He's got like a whole skit on that with a bunch of things. Yeah. And I think it's kind of like that. There's like a lot of awesome ways that society could work if everybody had my Giga Chad Galaxy head brain, but unfortunately, you know, everybody doesn't. We all have like our different issues. We've all got our different proclivities. We've all got like different things going on with us, and I don't know if it's possible to create a society that can account for all of those things without a lot of life just having to kind of be on rails.
I mean, didn't they try that though? Like, didn't the boomers try it and it didn't work? Didn't the people before that try it and it didn't work? Like, this is the first time we're utilizing social media. So yes, there's going to be problems.
Wait, try
but
what?
in general, I'm sorry?
Who tried what and it didn't work?
Like, didn't we try to create a society where we're all Christian? Oh, we're all this. We're all Muslim in some countries, but people don't like it.
Well,
like,
arguably, hold on, I think arguably it did work for a long time in a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
no?
Wait, I'm sorry. I say that again, Stephen. I'm sorry.
Arguably it did work. I mean, we got here, right?
Well, right. But like, I'm saying, I don't think this is a deterioration of all of society. I think we're just in another time and space where like, oh, like things are shifting. So it feels like the world's ending. But I mean, things are getting better. Medicine is coming through. Like people are look at our jobs. Like our jobs are
That's
amazing.
not true. That's
No,
not true.
things
That's
are improving like on
Yes.
a technological level, but I don't think technology equals good necessarily, right?
Yeah. Well,
if we're improving on a technological level in a whole bunch of different ways, like you just said, like our jobs and like our technology is getting better, that's true. But if our relationships are deteriorating and everything is like falling apart that way, I don't know if that's true.
But our
Absolutely.
parents had the divorce rate. My mom was in an arranged marriage, and then she married for love, and then her daughter, me, gets to marry for love. Like that's an improvement, right? Like,
Haven't you seen the stats recently that was like the average woman in America has like an average of like fucking like 2 friends when like 30
Yeah.
years ago they had an average of like 10 friends or something.
but what's wrong with having close, intimate friends? Like I'm a little confused
No,
with
because
that,
we
right?
have less close, intimate friends and less close, intimate friendships. And
Yeah, I
like,
think people's
20%
number of
women
friendships
don't
have, like,
even
gone-
But isn't that because people are also like I talk to people for a living, obviously. Like I form strong relationships, and I'm telling you right now, it's very hard to find people that you're actually meant to spend that much time with. Like,
Yeah, but no. But here's the thing. Here's the
everything
thing.
to
There's
happen.
probably
Yeah.
not people that you're like. I know it's very romantic to think of it as like there are some people that click really well with you, but the reality is that like if you're forced to be around people, they're gonna eventually click. Like we all have friends in like high school and grade school and college, and it's not because we were like all pure matched like on some like 52 dimensions of personality. We just happen
You
to
mean
be
like
around.
casual friends, like friends you just chill with and go bowling with? Because I'm into that. But I mean, there's intimate close friends, like people.
Wait, you didn't have
trust.
any
Okay,
intimate
hold
close
on.
friends from high school or college? Sorry, go ahead.
Can I just give an example? So,
Yeah.
so my someone very close to me was feeling lonely for a tremendous amount of time. It was severely affecting them, and just the idea of getting a job and working at a construction site and being around a bunch of dudes and then seeing them has brought his mood levels way up. And he tells me like, I don't know what it is, but just being around these guys, even though they're older than me or whatever it might be, just the constant conversations, the banter back and forth has like raised my moods tremendously. I agree with you that maybe super close friendships and all that stuff isn't going to be happening with everyone, but there's still a tremendous amount of value in other kinds of friendships and proximity and constant conversation that's very rewarding. I have a small Discord server, not the greatest friends with these people, but just being able to talk to them on a semi-regular basis about different things has brought me a tremendous amount of value as well. And so when people report loneliness, it's not just close friends, it's also just access to people in general that's completely diminished.
For sure. I mean, I've read the studies too. Like I know it's happening. I just think people are having I think people are deceiving themselves with why they're lonely. I do think it's a problem with the individual. I don't believe them because when I work with people long enough, they start to realize like, oh shit, I'm doing it to myself. You don't know it. Like girls who sleep with married men, they're like, why am I single? I'm like, you keep sleeping with married men, but they don't know they're doing it. Like they have no idea.
No, and I agree with you for all of this, but this is the issue, okay? Every single problem, I'm gonna guess, I think me and Ab agree on this, every single problem that any person has with their life, all of them, could be overcome with enough like dedicated like meditation, time and thought. But the reality is that most people aren't going to do it. Kind of like anybody could theoretically become wealthy doing like crypto or whatever, but like realistically, not like anybody could earn a full college education on Wikipedia right now. But most people should probably go to college, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the issue. Is that like here's the problem. It's this weird intersection right now with human biology and the environment that we built for ourselves that caters to parts of our biology that were never supposed to be rewarded that much, right? Like if I wanted to suck on some nice titties, I probably had to do a lot of work for it, okay, in the olden days, okay? There was a lot of stuff, there was a lot of friction in life in order to achieve some of the things that now, you know, a 13-year-old is seeing more titties than like the grand fucking emperor of China used to see, or like the wealthiest people in the world with absolutely no work. And I think that when we start like removing the roadblocks on every single pleasure in society, we become these like automatons that are just pushing buttons over and over and over and over and over again. And you've got like somebody with a heroin needle inside their arm, like dying on their bed, and you're looking at them and you're like, well, maybe if you educated yourself a little bit better, you'd stop injecting yourself. And they're just like drooling, looking at you like, okay. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with society right now.
True.
I just
I
can't.
can't
Well,
think.
the numbers don't even show that, right? Like, is it the majority of people are going through this, or is it?
I think all the
large
numbers show
pockets?
that. What do you mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
is it really the majority, guys? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not.
it is absolutely.
Like,
I don't think you
300
realize.
Wait,
I don't think you
nearly
realize
half
how
of
much.
Americans reported having fewer than 3 close friends.
Oh, and it's even worse. It's
down
even,
27%
and it's
since the
even
90s.
and it's even worse for men who report having even less friends, and it's impacting them severely. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I polled this chat right now, I think most of the people who are actually watching this right now would say that they have 1 or 0 really close friends. And if you ask them if they feel tremendously lonely, a lot of them would reply yes. Loneliness is an epidemic that has gone unchecked for quite some time and has been exponentially worse as a result of the pandemic and circumstances around it. But it's been growing ever since the introduction of the internet.
Yeah,
And we've
fuck the
just seen
pandemic.
grow.
It was the internet, right? Like, I don't even know if I could necessarily blame the pandemic, because if there was no internet, you'd probably still be like making friends and family
True.
and be close to.
I just think
right?
it exacerbated it.
Yeah, it could have for sure.
Because I know for me personally,
Well,
I wasn't doing anything online. I was going out doing stuff in person. That was removed from me. I'm doubly fucked. You get
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say?
I was gonna say it
So,
probably
made worse.
exacerbated it just because the option was there. It became so much easier to become an internet recluse, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It negatively impacted my health and my social relationships, absolutely. And so knowing that people have lived like that pre-pandemic, I was like, boo, I don't even know how you guys are
Yeah,
alive.
their whole lives.
You guys are the real strong ones, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, Brittany, there's definitely an issue right now in terms of people, and that's been growing ever since, and all the studies kind of show that.
Yeah, I guess I'm having a hard time because I just work with such like I understand, but I don't
Yeah.
know. There's like a dissonance here. There's like something here that doesn't feel right. Like I don't know. It doesn't sound as accurate as it could be, but I understand what you're saying, and I do know what you mean. I'm not disagreeing. I think this is happening.
It doesn't.
I just don't think it's happening. Wait. This is what it is. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's happening for the reason that's being laid out. Like I don't think this is a reason.
What's the reason? What's the reason
Well,
that you think we're alleging?
Okay. Wait. Sorry. Repeat the question.
What's the reason that you think we're alleging that this is happening?
Oh, from my understanding, you guys are saying the internet is causing / the technology boom and all of those things are causing like a split somehow. But I want to know how it's doing it.
Okay,
'Cause
I'm going to explain to you the differences between a real life relationship and an online one, and you're going to understand pretty quickly.
Wait,
When
can
you
I
are-
add one thing before you go into that?
Sure,
It's
go
like a
ahead.
more broad thing. I think that also like just media in general has changed the way people view relationships and friendships, like as like in a very, very broad sense.
Yeah, yeah. So the difference between relationships before the internet and after is that the relationships that you had before the internet were based off of a community sense, meaning you made friends with people who were in your area, and these people were tied to more people in your area. And so the bonds were not just a matter of convenience, they were also a matter that tied you to a larger ecosystem. And so let's say you had a falling out with one friend, other people knew around, and the reason why you guys would reconcile is because friends between the two of you would help you guys get back together. When you guys when you guys were tied, it was much more of a different experience. Whereas today, everything is online. Sometimes you're part of a Discord, you stop being, you hear from the person less, or maybe you guys have a falling out, you just block them and delete them and everything's removed. The relationship and just even how they're conceived and how they're ended has changed tremendously. But also the quality of it. There's a giant difference between a long distance relationship and an in-person relationship. We all understand this, and it's not just because you can't fuck them from a distance. Well, VR maybe you can, but you can't do that, you know? So when you're in front of someone, it's not just them talking, it's being around them, it's having companionship, it's having the proximity to your friends, it's them watching and witnessing the same things as you, it's being able to go to their graduation in person, not just seeing a picture online. The quality and the experience of friendship online is night and day to what you get.
What age group are we talking about?
I'm 32,
Wait, hold
so
on.
I've seen both sides.
Well,
So
'cause, like,
would you say that like what you're talking about here is the fact that there's so many people on the internet that we kind of don't really have to have conflict resolution with each other? I think maybe like even the streamer space is a good example of like a really rare space where people have to have conflict resolution because we all have to work with each other.
I actually super disagree. I think the internet is a good place
Yeah.
where it shows you don't need conflict resolution. So for instance, like
No, that's what I said, but I said for streamers we have the opposite.
No,
like,
I'm saying
experience
for
because
streamers we
have to work
don't.
with
Like,
each
so
other.
for instance, there are a lot of people like I call this the Destiny support group thing, right? Like in real
Yeah,
life, if people had issues with somebody like me, you'd have to kind of hash them out. But on the internet, you don't have to. You can just join a community where everybody hates the same person, and then that's like your new community.
Okay. Yes, that's the immature side, but
to add
for
to his
here,
point,
like Lab and
to his-
I are here. We are doing like the thing that you should be doing, which is
you guys
engage with each other.
I want to add to his point. Here's another thing that makes the internet completely different, and actually the streamer relationships even worse, is that it's no longer a disagreement between you and Lav. It's between you, Lav, the community, Twitter, Destiny, a dozen other streamers making commentary, and all of these things are coloring the experience, right? If I have an argument with my homie, it's one thing. If my homie tells everybody and they're saying some different shit, then I'm extra mad. If people witnessed him being disrespectful to me, then I'm extra mad. So all these things compound the way the relationship dynamic goes. So yeah, I would say online relationships are absolutely not conducive to staying healthy at all. That's why a lot of people who have their whole like romantic relationship online and show every detail rarely lasts, is because they've invited millions of people into their relationship dynamic rather than just being a one-on-one thing. And so the more people you invite into your relationship dynamic, the more odds it has of falling apart, at least when it's with the online world.
Okay, wait. So yes. So this is what I'm confused about. So good to have communities, but we know communities break. Like families fight. People don't talk to each other for years. Then you go to the internet, and the internet's confusing because we don't know how to make real friendships. We're not sure who can we really trust. But then, like, the issue is that it's all of the things at once, right? Because, like, I met my partner through the internet. I've met my friends through the internet. My best friend that, like, is going to come to my family events has been to my house. I met him because he used to be a caller. Like, and he's amazing. But he's, you know what I mean? Like, every
person you've met, you are not still friends with right now.
No,
actually, I wouldn't even.
Wait, that took hard work from all of us. So my friendships, some of them from my old neighborhood when I was 9 years old, that took a lot of work for us to stay friends all these years, right?
I agree.
And also, Brittany, I think this is what I'm trying to get through to you, is that I think that you probably do engage with the internet in a healthy way.
Yes.
I think I do. I've made really close friends online. I met Melina online, right? Like, and I've had a lot of cool friends, and I love existing in the online space. It's really, really, really fun for me.
Yep.
But I'm not like socially inhibited. I can go out to real places and talk to real people and have experience in real life, and that's super fun for me. But for a lot of people, the online shit has become a replacement for their life.
Okay, I agree. 100% agree. 1000% agree.
And I don't know if like the average person is capable of engaging in this space with.
I will also say I agree with you, Brittany. I'm not saying that the internet is all bad for creating relationships. Like I said, I have that Discord where I play D&D with folks that were really cool, and that's a wonderful experience for me. So this gave me something that I would never had otherwise in person. But I would not for a second think that this is a substitute, nor would it be an adequate substitute, because I think it's an inferior product. And so when people only have that, then they're suffering as a result. I agree, family breaks up, they fight sometimes, but let's be honest, what do you think has more odds of lasting, a family relationship or an online friendship? And I think 9 out of 10 people would probably say a family relationship. Even if they come from a fucked up, they can acknowledge that most other people maintain their familiar bonds far more often than people maintain online relationships.
I be an obnoxious brat.
You to resolve
I'm gonna
like
jump
that
in for like 2 seconds, and then I'm gonna move some at the gym. Hi, Brittany. I just want to say the loneliness stuff that that like Abba and Destiny are talking about is actually like pretty prolifically like seen in academics. Like the loneliness crisis is like genuinely taken very seriously. I don't know if the internet is the nascent point, because there's a lot of evidence that shows like even going back like pre like internet culture, this was like an increasing problem. And so like I do think the internet is making it worse, but for some niche populations it's making it a little bit better. But it does seem that in general we have a society that's leaning like more and more and more towards like isolationism, bad friendships. I think people are really bad at being friends as well. Like they don't even know how to do it. And so like I think there's an element of like a bit of a self-making, but it's hard to blame it on just the individual. If all of across society we see that everyone's failing at relationships, it means that like our society is failing people.
I think that the issue is that I think that we've become obsessed. We've become so good at utilizing technology that we've adapted too much of our lives around ourselves, and we've come to this like understanding that all forms of friction are bad. And I think that when you eliminate all forms of friction, you eliminate people's abilities to adapt to the world. So it becomes a thing where it's like, you know, could I go out and meet some friends? Like, you know, I don't want to. I'd rather. The problem is that like right now there are easier options for every single social thing that I, you know, don't have to do. Like, oh, I could go out with friends, or I could stay home and watch TV. And when I watch TV, it's and think about TV today, right? It's not even like, is there anything good on TV, or do I have to go out and like hang out with friends? It's like, yeah, it's like I can scroll through an infinite amount of shit, right? Now, like if I go back like 15 years ago, like my options on a Friday or Saturday night are there's like 3 or 4 people that I know that have parties every weekend that I can go to their house, or I can stay home and play StarCraft. Like those are my options.
You're
nowadays,
still pointing the fault on the individual. That's what I'm saying.
No. I'm not putting the fault on it. I'm saying that people have access now to infinite dopamine buttons in front of them. That now you have to compete with TikTok. You have to compete with Reddit now when you want to find something else to do in your life. It's the same thing with the obesity crisis. I don't think the obesity crisis has happened.
Hold on. Hold on.
No, I don't think so.
Is it because I'm a boomer? Like, I don't understand. Like, you guys know the internet is not real. Like, this is real life.
It's about what
she says it existed before the internet.
No, hold on. It's not about the internet. It's about convenience, and the internet is the ultimate convenience. But there are other things that have made our life more convenient.
But if we're engaging that loneliness existed before the internet, the trends started before the internet.
Yeah, because I think the trends have been as technology has progressed. The internet is just the next stage of that technology. Cell phones are the next stage of that technology.
So here's an idea. There were sedentary people who were unhealthy before the internet came around. With the advent of the internet and the ability to sit in front of a screen all day and be entertained, sedentary people and unhealthy habits have exponentially risen as a result. One can acknowledge something existed before and also acknowledge the ways in technology and cars and all these things has made people generally unhealthier in their day-to-day habits. You understand?
Like as like a random personal funny example, like there are times you could like people would sit in front of the TV for a long time when I was a kid, but sometimes you're in front of the TV and your favorite show ended and then there's nothing good on TV. It's like, fuck, well, let's go outside. There's nothing else to see, right? Nowadays that will never happen. I've got infinite content everywhere.
That's my issue. Okay, so in my bubbles, like that's what we're all doing in this small town. We all hang out. We have like potlucks. We are making an effort because we know there's an issue with loneliness.
But you're the exception.
Brittany, you just said it. You live in a small town in a completely secluded area. Your experience has nothing to do with a metropolitan experience. It's like you sitting here.
It's like they're much easier.
Exactly. Right. Literally, your mere existence is an indication of why you live a different life. Like, if you sit here, you're like, I don't understand inner city gun violence. I wouldn't expect you to. Your population's 10,000. Okay.
First of all, 6,000.
Okay, but you understand. So you gotta understand.
I only lived here 3 years ago. I lived in Seattle for 5 years. I was in it. I was going to events every fucking night after working, and there was community. There was people, but we went to our niches. We were all lonely, wall-sitting flowers who eventually went to be social. But the issue was that we were putting all of that pressure on our friends. People were burdening their friends with all of their trauma instead of understanding that your friends are also, when you have close, intimate friends, you can't just put that on random people you meet at the dungeon, right? Or the bowling alley. Like, you have to think about why you want a friendship. Why are you lonely? What do you want?
I think both of these, I think you guys are agreeing more than you realize. Like, I think both of these are occurring simultaneously. Like, what Destiny and Abba are pointing out are basically like the systemic reason why people are in this way, like why they tend to choose lack of friction, why they
we're looking at adults
that like in-group them, and Brittany's outlining the specific individual accountability for it. Sorry, Cherry.
Okay, if we're looking at adults, because we don't see this problem with kids, we don't see this problem in like high school and stuff like that. People are forced into areas with each other, and they like create friendships. And I think as we grow into our adulthood, we do take different paths, different strays. And I think if you want to be able to socialize with people outside in the real world, you kind of have to have an income. You kind of have to have money to be able to do so. So while we're maybe saying that the internet is exacerbating this problem, for a lot of people, it's the only like other alternative that they fucking have, because not everybody can drop $50 every weekend to be able to go to like Friday.
But we're saying that's the problem.
But we haven't even said that.
I don't think people know what they want from their friendships, because look, people ask me to be friends with them all the time, and I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, so we can hang out. And I'm like, why? And they're like, so we can have someone to talk to. I was like, why? Like, they don't actually know why they want to be friends with me, Brittany. They just want to be friends with someone they can talk to, which is sad and objectifying.
Yeah, but historically, people never had to worry. Like, do you think that 150 years ago, do you think people are sitting there like hyper analyzing, like, well, this is why I have friendships and this is why I know, like, people didn't think about it. It just happened.
I'm confused. Because in my circles growing up, my parents made sure that my friends were good kids, so I could hang out with good kids, you know. And then like if kids had struggles or problems, my mom would be like, "Come to my house, I'll feed you." Like I grew up in an environment where like, yeah, you vet your friends, you talk to people, you say, "Do we share the same religion, the same culture? What are you about? What do your parents do?" Like, yeah, you're supposed to know who you're hanging out with. Am I crazy?
Yeah, you are.
You're just exceptional, which is cool, but
you're not crazy. You're just unique.
Yeah.
Like
really, I hate that. Am I truly? Because I feel like such a normie. Come on.
You sound, Brittany. I've listened to you like talk to your family members. You sound like you have like an awesome group of people around you. Like everything about your community, everything about like But I'm just saying that it's like
if we were an RPG.
Wait, this is
if we were an RPG, everyone here would have chosen the human race, and you would be the like secluded elven race. Like you're 100% weird.
No. Wait, Brittany, your parents are what?
a Syrian from Iraq.
Yeah, I feel like this is the common POC parent in the suburbs. Like,
Oh,
they
for
need
sure,
to know who their kid is talking to.
Yeah.
Brittany,
That's true.
So this is like.
Wait, hold on. Wait, can you expand on that?
Like POC suburb moms or suburb dads. Oh, for sure. Like literally, like no sleepovers at other people's houses. They all had to come to our house. Like everything was at our house.
Okay.
Our parents were very like, who are your parents? I have to meet them. Like, who is everybody? Like my parents knew who was who 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away.
I feel like I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like there are two, well, there's probably a lot, but I feel like there are two really distinct kind of like POC or more generally speaking, immigrant experiences in the United States. And that's people who like come over and they bring a lot of their culture with them. And that's other immigrants that come over and they like hardcore say, everything in the past culture, and we're going to be hardcore like American, and I don't want to say white, but like the standard American culture. It seems like those are like two different paths that sometimes immigrant households can go on.
Generally, most immigrants try to preserve their culture nearly as much as possible. They try to get rid of anything that might get them.
I know a lot of immigrants are like, they don't teach their children like that. Like, I know a lot of kids that live in San Francisco and shit that can't speak any Chinese or any of that shit. Like a lot of people with Asian parents that don't learn any of that shit in the household. Sometimes they do, but maybe it just depends on the cultures or whatever.
Part of that is also there used to be, now we know better, but it used to be that you'd go to schools and teachers would tell your parents like, oh, don't talk to them in any other language, it'll confuse them. And now we found out that that's different. It's not the case anymore. So so that's a lot of the reason why people
I think it comes down to some of the values. I definitely agree like on language and stuff like that, but when it comes to some of the values in regards to like cultural heritage, that they'll try to maintain some of it. But yeah, I definitely think what you said was true, Destiny. So I think once you explained it, that makes sense. All this to say, Brittany, to come back to the original point. What? I agreed with you.
With who?
What?
Me?
Oh no, I thought you were gonna say f you to Brittany. Sorry, I was hyped. My bad.
Abba would never.
No. To come back to the whole sex work discussion, I think considering the environment that we live in, the way that everything is optimized in order to draw people's attention in, to get them looped in, and I think we have a vulnerable population in regards to loneliness and stuff like that. I think there's an argument to be made that the way that sex work operates ferments negative female emotion because it does feel exploitive. So that's what
I agree. I want to say it, but this is gonna sound like I'm attacking her, and I don't mean to. This is gonna sound so fucked up.
Don't make it personal. Just make it general.
No. Go.
As a business model.
Yes, there you go.
As a Twitch streamer, when you write things like, I wish you were here, thinking of you, before you know what I mean? That is the same shit Amaranth is doing that Melina does on her Twitch streams. What is the difference?
Wait,
I came in here to ask.
Hold on, wait. It's my wife. I need to defend. Wait, no, it's my wife. It's literally my wife. Hold on.
It's our wife.
I would say that it's a lot different for Melina because Melina is very clear about having a husband. And when I look at her experiences,
open relationship husband, so she is fuckable.
But hold on. The problem isn't fuckable girls. The problem is people getting obsessed and wanting to marry these girls. If people just wanted to fuck the Twitch streamers, neither me nor Abba would have any problem. If you want to try to fuck somebody, go for it. The problem is people donating money thinking they're going to get in love with these people and like have a relationship with them.
They could though. They technically statistically.
Hold on. No. Okay. I can tell. Like we can, if you want, you can spend.
They're not going to statistically.
Wait, no.
They're also not statistically going to fall into the stream.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. I'm sorry. I have so much experience in
his wife. And I
have so much experience in this area, so it's a topic that's very close to my heart, okay? There are a lot of girls that run their streams in a certain way that you can tell by the quality of their chat and you can tell by the types of DMs that they get that there are people who are obsessed with them and are trying to like get with them, and that's like the goal. And the stream almost feels like a quasi GFE type of thing. Now, if Melina did that,
I agree.
She can go for it. I'd make fun of her like hell for it, but Melina is very open and obviously like married to me. I can show up on her stream and there's no problems. We'll give each other hugs and kisses on streams. It's very different than Amaranth, who literally hid having a husband for 4 years in order to like engender that type of feeling in her community. You can watch the chats. It is a different type of thing.
Publicly
everyone slow down. All right. Brittany wanted to critique our wife, so go ahead, Brittany.
No, I'm good with that. I'm saying it feels like a spectrum to me. So if you have a sex worker who's trying to sell a fantasy, like my friend who's a real life escort, like her customers don't want to know she has a boyfriend. Like, it would ruin the illusion while they're fucking her. So, like, why would you know what I'm saying? There's an area which this makes sense, and then there's an area in which people take advantage. So I'm here to take out the toxicity, but I just feel like good people are being lumped in because it looks the same.
That's a fair point. But I believe there's Cherry and then Straight or Raid who wanted to say something. So Cherry, go first.
All I wanted to say was bruh. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that. Straight or raid? What do you want to say?
And from UT to everyone else who doesn't realize, but just
Stop! Fix your microphone. Holy Christ. Fix your internet and your mic.
I think
Okay,
that a lot of that you guys agreed with each other like the whole time.
Yeah,
It was like-
I do agree that we're all talking about different bubbles that are overlapping. That's what's happening, right? Because all this shit has to be happening at once.
Lav, you felt strongly about this thing, even though you think you were agreeing with us. What did you want to say on the topic of like it being partially exploitative?
Like everything that's already been said. I'm like very middle ground in which I think that parasociality has the potentiality for like a lot of harm, but I think that there are ways that you can mitigate it. I think that one of the ways, before I started to love Brittany and be a Britcel, I had like that same criticism, and then I talked with her and I realized that it's probably actually super possible for some people to, engage with it the way that she does. It's just scary that, people can potentially engage with it poorly. But also I'm from the feminist position. I know, gag. Where,
Don't gag too much, that's facial abuse. I'm so sorry.
We talk a lot about how, sex work and stuff like this, like the parasociality can potentially affect men, but we don't often talk about how it can also affect like the woman on like the side, especially getting like so much attention constantly. And I think that that's like a big part of like why it's so hard for people to quit and why it's so hard for me to quit and why I'm still posting like nudes on the internet. I don't know whether or not to separate my exhibitionism sexuality with it could just be that I started sex work really young and I like am sexually aroused by the idea of people like wanting me. Like I have no idea if that's maladaptive or if that's healthy for me. I'm trying to like figure out what that means, like what that looks like. It's potentially harmful for everyone. And then you also brought up how in social media it's sort of the same thing, like men liking these women and following these women just because they think they're attractive and then comparing real life women to them. And I think it's very similar for women who feel like they have to constantly perform and be an enigma rather than a person.
Yeah, I just wanted to say just on that first point, I think that addictiveness of being sought after online is true both on social media and here, and both true for men and for women. And so I think what you're describing is true for all groups, and it being addictive and being hard to quit makes a lot of sense, especially if it's profitable. It's even more difficult. So it makes sense that that you feel that loop to be constantly pulled back in, even if there's like negative aspects to it.
Yeah, and I don't think one is like potentially like even worse than the other. I think that I just come from the feminist standpoint because it means something to me. But I think that there absolutely should be people from the other side like advocating for against parasociality because of how it harms men. But I'm just taking the feminist route because that's my lane.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it.
I am.
True.
Guys, thanks for letting me jump on. I really got to get back to editing this podcast.
Thanks for derailing our entire conversation and completely
You're welcome.
shitting up everything.
And Steven, when are you gonna update? When are you gonna look at my OnlyFans again? I've really been updating my game over there. I've been it's peak good.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. Okay, as long as it doesn't upset Lav, because I know she's like really against people looking at that stuff. So.
All right, guys. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Well, now that she's left.
I think that Brittany engages in sex work in like a really healthy way, and I think that that's because she started when she was like fully knowledgeable of what happened or of what she was getting into. She was older. She came from a good home. Like I think that those are all things that you want, but she's also the exception to the rule, right? Like all my criticisms with sex work are mostly about like the pipeline and the potentiality for harm, which affects the majority of people who go into sex work. It's not one of them, which is fine.
Is it fine?
Yeah, I'm glad that she's able to make it work for her. I think that.
Are you, or are you a jealous bitch about it? Be honest.
I think to some degree I am really sad that that sometimes I look at my life and I'm a little sad that I fell into what I fell into, and that's what I'm trying to avoid other young women falling into.
Honestly though, like the unethical shit is just way more profitable. So if you're just talking about money, I would just do that shit.
Hey,
like the capitalist in me, because like Destiny and Dan have really inspired me in that regard. I would just tell you, man, little man, you know what I mean? If you can't figure his shit out, use him as much as you can. You know what I mean? Do nerd bait videos, nerd bait pictures, get your money, and
boyfriend me while I play Command and Conquer 4.
Yeah, or nerd me while my boyfriend watches. That shit will make cakes.
Oh, I've seen some Pornhub fans will be like, "F***ing my biggest like donor or whatever." F***ing fans like episode 7 or whatever.
Facts. Or like recent Muslim convert still Zahor or whatever. Like those are all really great titles.
Yes. No, I think to some degree, like that's cool, right? Because that's the disconnect that we were talking about with like financial freedom versus like women's liberation. It's more important to me that women are not seen as sexual objects than it is for me to just be seen as like fuckable for everyone at the expense of my like autonomy and my personhood. Like it means way more to me that women are seen as like complex human beings than being able to like make a ton of money wearing like schoolgirl outfits.
Well, maybe you can make yourself complex in other medias and platforms, and then once you do the sex work stuff, just be completely one-dimensional and like a capitalistic whore. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that'll be my gig. But...
I'm not even. Hold on, I'm not even like trolling. I really don't like. If you just own that shit, you do it. Like I ain't even mad at you. With millions on the line, I'll tell you to go do it.
I'd be mad at
you. I just think that there's a difference between the type of sex work where you can do it on OnlyFans and generally do it in the comfort of your own home versus somebody who has to like walk the streets and kind of like
do I think there's a difference? Is that what you asked?
The only problem is that one enforces the other. So if you're making it societally appropriate for consent to be bought, that's like a social moray. Like that becomes like ingrained in our heads the same way that porn has become ingrained in our heads.
Wait. Why is that a bad thing? Because we buy consent all the time in regards to like most services that we get.
We don't buy sexual consent.
But I'm asking you why sexual consent.
There's a paper that all of this.
Name another job where you buy consent to the inside of your body, that could potentially create, a baby, an STD, potentially harm you, or a position where you're
but like hold up,
to get raped or have violence committed against you. That's just like
we pay people to take crazy risks all the time. I don't see why this one would be so drastically different.
Well, it's not drastically different in the sense where I'm like moralizing it because it's sex, but it just what it exists in the way that most prostitutes are raped and abused is unlike any other job. Like there's no other job that's even comparable. Like
there's sex work that happens in person that's not just prostitution. There's also stripping and dancing and all of that.
True.
Yeah, but I think also even if you look globally at sex work that's done in person, like I believe the statistics show that most people are either coerced or forced into it, and a lot of people actually enter it from when they're underage. So I do think that there's like while I understand that there's like these unique problems with doing OnlyFans and things like that. I think also if we were to look at, I would say that the people who would voluntarily engage in OnlyFans in healthy ways is going to be a small population. I'd say the people who can voluntarily and do it in a healthy way with like in-person sex work is going to be even smaller.
Yeah. And you guys think do you feel like the industry should disappear because there's a lot of exploitation?
It's hard to say because I've immersing myself in like, feminist theory and like sex work theory and like
it's my favorite word.
Like a year, and it's like nobody really knows. I mean, there's a lot of infighting in this where like there's the Nordic model where you want to like criminalize people buying it but make it sell it, and then there's other models where you just completely decriminalize it. Which I mean, and there's studies that you can pull from each thing where it like in each place it works differently. Sometimes, abuse goes up, violence goes up, sometimes it goes down. It's impossible to know how that would even work.
That's so crazy. This one blew my mind. I was actually shocked when I read this. When they legalized sex work, I believe it was like in Amsterdam or some shit, what they found is like human trafficking spiked through the roof.
Yeah,
and so there's this idea. So this idea that like if you legalize it, it makes it safe. But in reality, a lot of the models that have adopted a safer route have realized that other problems sprung from it, and like criminal organizations have still found a way to like inject themselves into it a lot.
Well, and to be clear, for the people that do that sex work, it does make it safer for them. Like when Backpage was deleted, a ton of women complained about that, like being
True.
Then there's also the factor of women who are coming from other areas who were doing it illegally, who now come into the areas where they can do it legally. And I think that can also count towards that number of like trafficking as well. But I would say that I mean right now from everything that I've read, it looks like while I am like I personally am like against the industry just because porn we know is like super exploitative and people have horrible things done to them on the spot in porn, and then even in-person sex work, we know that most of it's coerced or forced. I can be against the industry for those reasons, but still support the legalization and the regulation of it, because I think in an ideal world where everybody involved in sex work was consenting and was engaged in a healthy way, I think it would just be a really, really small amount of people.
Okay, hypothetical. Oh, sorry, does anyone want to reply?
I feel like everybody is downplaying the fact that OnlyFans can be, yes, it can be safer than in-person sex work, but I think it's kind of toxic to be able to have access to your workplace like 24/7. I think there's benefits to like in-person sex work.
I mean, I don't think that's different.
You go there, you do it for a set amount of time, and then you go home.
There's benefits to both, because you're also, if you're in-person sex work, you're also like way more at risk to get killed and raped.
If you're in in-person sex work too.
Yeah, so it's sort of one of those. What I think should happen, and this is in like the shorter scale, is I think that there should be a sex workers union. I think that you should be 21 to be able to do sex work. I think that you should get a license to be able to perform, sex work.
Wait, why 21 specifically?
They have this in a lot of states where you have to have a dancer's license before you can even step on the stage in the club.
Wait,
would we change the military age?
Why 21? Why 21 versus 18?
Because they want the dancers drinking. That's like that's where they make
No.
money.
I'm asking Lav. You said the union only 21-year-olds. Why can't we have the juicy 18-year-olds?
Jesus.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think that at 18, fresh out of high school, you're able to make the decision with informed consent about what your life looks like after you are a sex worker.
I understand that, but I just think if you have the right to vote, I think you should be able to choose that decision. But if you feel like it's not the right age of consent, that's a different discussion. I feel like if you have the right to be an adult and you pay taxes. Okay, cool. So carry on then. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm not super like that's the age, right? Like I'm movable on the age. I just think that it shouldn't be 18.
Okay, gotcha. So carry on. You want to start a union before I cut you off? My bad.
Yeah, like I think that sex workers should unionize to keep themselves safe. But then other problems persist in that also, because then the government meddles in what you do with your body, and then the government becomes your pimp. But in the same way that like every other job, you have a pimp, right? Everyone has a boss. So they wouldn't be independent contractors anymore, which sucks.
Destiny is my boss.
Shut up.
True. Which sucks, but also if you're in a job that extremely dangerous, you cannot afford to not unionize and have access to healthcare and safety and things like that. It's just a really hard thing. It's a really hard thing. I mean, this is the oldest profession. Like, how do you get rid of it? Like, you can't.
Right.
And then also in a culture where it's so normalized to dehumanize women and see them as sexual objects, it's like, okay, how do we unlearn that? Like, it's hard. It's hard prescriptions to make.
As a higher income earner, I really appreciate sex work and their discretion, so I would not want it to go away either.
I don't think it's going anywhere. If anything, there's only been more avenues that it's
Hold up, Destiny, did you ask why?
I said Jesus Christ, but sure, why? Wait, why?
You know why. Why do you think high earners would want sex workers?
So they don't get baby trapped?
Or so they don't have to deal with the bullshit that you gotta deal with.
That's half the fun, though.
yeah. It's fun.
You're missing out on the experience, then.
Hey, it's fun till it's not. You feel me? So everything's fun till it's not. Until it's like some fucking actual media nonsense. So no, thank you.
Yeah. Honestly, true. Steven actually convinced me to close my relationship. So
cringe.
Very inspiring.
Don't worry, guys. If you're sad that Lav is off the market, she'll be back on in like 1 week. Don't worry, guys.
No.
Lav, what was the argument that convinced you to close it?
I won't. I don't. I think just seeing.
Oh, you're just gonna bring it up and you're not gonna say it.
Sounds like there's probably something personal that happened, but that's okay. We all have our things in life.
I think that the way that I've seen most people engage in open relationships is just like super toxic, and then I was realizing that I was overlooking a lot of toxicity in what my relationship had become, and I like really missed the like sanctity of monogamy and how beautiful and like
how beautiful
Oh
and
my
how
God,
cool it
cringe.
felt to be with my partner who I love.
Yeah, and nobody's ever had a toxic monogamous relationship. True.
No.
That's actually-
Also,
yeah,
wait,
no,
how
I
can you talk about like the
actually just read that.
sanctity of blah blah blah, and you're like fucking posting full-on nips online?
Because it's not the same thing. There's a
Oh
difference.
my
between-
God.
No, let me defend
Cringe.
Let me defend
I was
Lab,
gonna say,
okay?
my dude.
Yeah, it's not the same. There's a
Cringe.
difference between intimacy
No, and also-
making love to your
here's the thing,
partner,
here's-
and then also sharing emotional connections with people,
Yes.
and then
And I'll
doing
put you on
OnlyFans.
blast.
Yes.
I'll put you on blast. I think that I
Who on blast? Me?
No, Steven.
Yeah.
Whoa, careful! I haven't even
never-
loaded my cannons yet, so careful with what you're saying. But go ahead.
The way,
You gotta watch yourself.
the way that you engage in an open relationship where you actively look for sexual partners feels so wrong to me. Like I like the idea of like, you know, meeting someone and you guys connect and you kind of like explore it was very like delicious to me. I was like, okay, this is like.
Did you
this
say
can be
delicious?
good. Yes.
That is crazy. Carry on.
You just called 18-year-olds delicious like 2 seconds ago.
No, I said they were
Yeah.
juicy. Very different.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
okay, that's so much better.
no,
Yeah.
And
that-
that's true, because if you think about life, they have more juice in them because they're literally younger.
Jesus
Christ.
Christ. But
Yeah, I'll keep
anyway,
that in mind.
that was very appealing to me. And then until it wasn't, which whatever, you know, you live, you learn.
That makes sense. It makes sense though why you would stop that if that was the way you engaged
But
before. 'Cause this is
I-
like an incredibly toxic way to engage with relationships. That sounds like you're looking for trouble.
Well, I know, but I also think that, you know, all the attention that you don't spend with your partner, or you're not spending with your partner, right? So, like, when I'm trying to build like a life with, you know, my partner who eventually I want to have like a ton of kids with, and I want to like, you know, be a stay-at-home mom, and I want to support him in his job and do all these things. I can't be doing all those things, doing what I feel is like my divine feminine purpose, while I'm fucking other men or thinking about fucking other men. Like, especially as a woman who gets like very deeply emotionally connected, I cannot worry about other men's mentals and fixing their lives the way I support my man. So it just seemed like it was like very confusing for me, and ultimately I just like couldn't. I
think that's
couldn't
super
Yes, Lav, tell them.
Well, hold
this
on.
is a common
None of that is
issue
congruent
that
with
women-
posting nudes online. But I mean, like, if that's your thought process, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what Steve's talking about.
nothing to do with posting nudes.
But for a lot of women who do have aspirations of like becoming a mother, having children, having a family, there is something that is like really unresolved with having multiple partners and like fitting into society in that way. Because it's absolutely not the norm, and I think
everything you just said applies to posting nudes as well. I don't know if you realize.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it
No,
does.
well,
It
I-
absolutely
listen,
does.
No, Steven, you are probably
Steven, you're
correct, but
coping.
I would like
You're
to just engage with the. I just want to
Okay.
engage.
We were
with
engaging
the
with the
parent
cope right now. Okay.
No,
That's
no,
okay. That's
I actually want to engage with Steven's
much
cope.
time-
I want to engage
time am I
as somebody who
spending
buys and
with
purchases a lot of nudes. Let me say, Steven, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. The difference
Yeah.
in terms of emotional labor, in terms of time labor, and what kind of investments you put into romantic relationships, trying to sleep with multiple people, is incomparable than something like posting nudes online, where you're not only siphoning money back to the relationship, which can financially benefit the both of you, but also doesn't require the same amount of time investment.
It depends on how you engage with the extrasexual. It depends on how you engage with the extrasexual relationships. If you're just hooking up, with people, there is no emotional investment. There's none of that there. There could be more emotional investment in trying to DM people on your fucking OnlyFans or in like figuring out which pictures you want to post online, and there could be with hooking up with somebody. It just depends on how you engage with it. But neither of these things are intrinsically like that much different than one another. And all the arguments about like sanctity of one partner and blah 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 blah, like any like normal conservative person would just say, oh yeah, the sanctity of saving your body for one person. You've only shown your body to one person as well. It's the exact same arguments.
Hold on, Steven. It's the best friend argument. It's the best friend argument. You don't remember the best friend argument? Where it's like, yes, I could have a bunch of small friends, but having best friends require more time and commitment and more effort. And so if you're saying, I'm going to invest most of my time and effort and energy into one relationship, of course you're going to foster a much stronger bond than if you were to try to spend that time and energy with multiple people.
And
so it is
you're
completely different.
absolutely
And I will say that for most people, engaging in hookups or all these things is an emotional investment, especially.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with any of the things that you're saying, but it's retarded to say like I can't do open relationships because having to engage on this emotional level and blah blah blah. That's not an open relationship. You're talking about like some polyamorous shit at that point, right? You can hook up with people without all the emotional labor, any of that stuff.
No,
but if you can't, if you're not able to do that, then it makes sense why you wouldn't do an open relationship. Of course, you never should have been doing it in the first place, right?
No,
Yeah, and
sure.
I want to
Maybe, but I
double
also-
down on Destiny's point here. I think that a lot of people look at sharing their body as like something as incredibly personal, and in a similar way that you're talking about sharing emotions and caring about other people's like mental states and stuff like that.
True.
Sure. Yeah, that's also true, but I also think that even like the time that goes into like courting someone to even fuck them is like time that I could.
Everything you're saying is making stuff up. I don't know why you're talking.
What do you
mean?
Lav, you don't have to court anybody. You can go on Tinder right now and you can be fucking somebody in 60 minutes. I don't know why I don't know what you're talking about right now.
But
That's fine if it's not. That's fine if it's not rewarding.
I actually have something to say about this also, because I think that the way that you engage with casual sex is very unhealthy for the average person.
That's great, but one, I'm not the average person.
He doesn't
Two,
prescribe it
I
to
don't.
the
Yeah.
average
Two, I don't prescribe it to everybody. Three, I'm only calling you out because you're just making a bunch of retarded arguments and you attack my lifestyle. So if you're gonna attack my lifestyle, I'm gonna tell you that everything you're saying is fucking retarded because it obviously is.
Okay, great.
Okay.
She's not attacking your lifestyle. Go ahead, Lav.
She literally started off by saying like, I would show you shade, blah blah blah.
What works for you works for you. But when we're
Wait,
talking
why are you repeating that? No
generally,
shit, I already, of course I know
talk
that.
about the majority, right? So when
Mhm.
you're going this hard for you, that's great. But we also have thousands of people watching us.
Wait, but you acknowledge the
You'll
majority
probably
can't
fall
work.
in
The
line-
majority can't work with your lifestyle either. You acknowledge that, right?
On some fronts.
No. On every front. The majority of people probably can't deal with like open relationships. That's fine. But the majority of people probably can't post their nudes on Twitter either.
I would agree with that.
You're also coping.
Wait, hold on. You can't even admit that. That's such an obvious gimme. That's such an obvious true statement.
Guys,
She's already admitted that she herself struggles with
I want her
it.
to reply. I want her to reply. Lav, he made the idea that you accused him of having a lifestyle that most people can't live with, and then he counter-accused you of having a lifestyle that most people can't agree with in regards to posting your nudes online. What do you say to that?
I think that you're right, and I think that
Good.
Well, then we have no disagreements.
I think that fewer people, even fewer people, can handle your lifestyle than mine.
Yeah, that's probably true. But both our lifestyles are in the minority. But yeah, that's probably true.
We're in an insane niche. I think that most
Your niche is insane as well. We're both like 0.001.
No, I have dated so many men who have never given a fuck about me posting nudes. Have never given a fuck.
That doesn't make it.
Lav. Let's hold on. Woo woo. Oh, that's the reality check bell. What percentage of women do you think are posting their nudes on public platforms like Twitter?
Wait, Destiny, what do you think is stopping those women from doing it?
The answer is probably less than 1%, but I'll let you guess. What do you think is the percentage of women that post nudes on Twitter? My next question is gonna be, what do you think are the percentage of men that are okay with their women posting nudes on Twitter? Another hint, probably less than 1%.
Sure.
Don't wait, no, stop. Don't say sure. I need a yes or no. Don't say sure. I need a yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Good, Lav. So you got to concede on the stuff that he's saying that's true to be seen as reasonable. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm serious.
Dan
You guys
Jr.
are doing a great job. This is really, really fruitful. I want to ask, so just to come back to the original point, I think Lav was trying to make the idea that for her, these kinds of things don't work because she thinks it's an unsustainable lifestyle for most people. You don't disagree with that idea, do you, Steve?
No, not at all.
Okay, so I think most of our arguments are pretty fine. I think Steven acknowledges that.
Well, I only had a problem because she started off with this, like, I think that you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well,
Lav, do you think he's crazy?
No, but I think that he is. I find it very, and this is just my opinion, and I'm not a professional.
Here we go.
I think that it is really hard for me to understand wanting to. This is also very personal. Fucking other people other than a partner feels extremely egoic to me.
That's fine.
These were things that you were supposed to think about
Wait,
before
hold on.
you opened your relationship.
Let her flesh it out.
And when you're functioning like completely egoically, I find it very hard to make genuine connections with anyone around you because you're so self-focused. And that's just like not one of my values. And I don't think that that's a good value for like really anyone to have, because I want to live in a society where people like care about each other and care about, and put self-sacrifice, in their value system, like stuff like that. So I don't know. I
want this.
Wait, are we gonna skip over the fact that a new word just dropped? What does egoically mean, Lav?
She means egotistical, but she's trying to find out a smarter way to say it.
Let's let it slide, okay?
Just making sure.
No, egoic is it's spiritual. Egoic is I got that from
The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, egoic is on Google it says relating to the ego. So unless it means something else.
Well, in the book it means something different. There's a book, okay.
But okay.
Egotistical.
Yes.
So
let's not get caught up. What are you trying to say when you use the word?
Really quick. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to ask. That's it.
So egotistical has a very negative connotation in a way where, like, when you think of someone.
But selfishness would
we don't care.
egoic.
We don't care. Just explain what you were trying to say when you use the word. Just please explain it.
I'm. That's what I was
She
trying
is. She's trying to. Go for it.
Yeah. So when you use the word egotistical, it frames it in a way that like makes you look selfish. Whereas like when you use it like egoic, it's something that like feels more like a block than like a negative attribution that you have. It's very neutral. So like
it's the same thing, but you're saying it just sounds better.
No, it's neutral.
Let's not hold on. We're getting caught up in the retardation. So basically, you're just trying to say that Destiny's engaging in relationships and sex selfishly and for self, and it blocks his ability to form relationships. Something like that. Am I summarizing properly or no?
To form
yeah, really weird when you do things that you want to do.
To form the deep human bond that I think that everyone should have.
Okay. God bless you. Okay, so Destiny, I want you to respond to that.
It's okay. If she has an opinion, that's fine. She can have her opinions about things. That's all good.
And I think that to some degree you'd agree with that, and I don't think that.
No, I wouldn't at all. I would say that your way of living is gross and codependent and makes me cringe like a motherfucker. But
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay. But everybody can have their own ways of living. That's
Hold up, Destiny. You don't feel like the way that you engage in your sexual relationships is to some degree selfish?
Nope. But as long as nobody's going to attack me and say that, I have no need to defend that. So I'm totally
Don't you
fine.
think that monogamy is way more selfish? You're literally asking another person to be completely devoted to you sexually and emotionally.
No, you're not asking them to. You're just it's self-sacrificial. It's not you sacrificing yourself like.
When I say asking, I mean like
both
you're
people are
mutually agreeing.
asking. It's an agreement to put it that way. Sounds one-sided.
I think that possession, I think that in the way that at least I engage with monogamy, especially now after having an open relationship, it's less that me and my fiance are like asking each other to be monogamous, but more so that we've made the choice, even with like any option that we have, rather than be possessive of each other, to just choose each other. Like it's not possession, it's just choice. And if I wanted, and if he wanted
choice where if you made the other choice, the relationship would end immediately.
You were saying earlier that you're like actively deciding that you're not going to involve other people for the benefit of the relationship, even though you and your partner both have these impulses to have like additional relationships on the side.
I think that we had the impulses, but the reasons that we had the impulses were very like egoic. Like I wanted to feel like desired.
Egoic.
Like I like feel desired, but feeling desired to me doesn't come over like emotionally connecting with my partner. So it seemed very frivolous.
Lav, can I ask what inspired you to try opening if you haven't like if you're just now like realizing why you don't like it? Do you explore first like physically before you do I guess thinking about it?
Well, I thought about it. We were thinking about it for years before we did it because he had been in open relationships before and I had never. But then I think the thing that ultimately made us open, and we only opened for like a few months completely. We were like monogamish and then we were open. But so we like made little steps. But I think what ultimately put me over was the fact that I had been doing sex work since I was 17. And so I lost my virginity at 17. So I had built my sexuality around it being bought, and I never got to be in the dating pool where it was like my own sexuality with my own autonomy. And it felt really important to me to experience that for the amount of time that I did.
Okay.
So you wanted to open because you felt like you were lacking a lived experience.
She wanted to try some new dick.
No, I didn't want to try some new. I didn't want to try some new dick. I wanted to know what it felt like to have.
To try some.
Did the fact that you were
Lav, oh my god. Stop.
Did the fact that you were engaged and getting married soon make you feel?
That was the most Lav answer I've ever heard in my life.
To have this experience.
I'm sorry, I'm done.
What did you say?
Did the fact that you were engaged when you guys opened, maybe coming to get married soon, did that realization make you feel like, oh fuck, there's things I haven't experienced, like
Not
cold feet kind of?
not oh fuck, because like I said, like my fiance was always really open about trying this, so it wasn't like oh fuck. It was just sort of like, yeah, I think I met someone and I was like, I think I would like to explore this actually, so maybe we should try it. And
it wasn't like oh fuck. It was like oh shit.
Wait, did
No. It was literally like, oh fuck. Like they were.
No. I didn't mean to load it with that phrase, but so because you met an individual, you wanted to explore it, not that you wanted to explore it and then sought out an individual.
Well, I'd realized that I got well, also I think that it was sort of maladaptive behavior in nature for me also, because I think that I have a partner who's like perfect. Like my
no
fiance
such thing.
Like, no.
He's
you
perfect in
can't.
his.
I'm hearing that
flaws.
codependence. It's coming out.
No,
He's perfect
never-
in his imperfections. I don't think you understand.
No, yeah.
On
true.
God,
No,
one ball is hanging lower than the other. There's something fucking wrong, okay?
No, sure. I mean, we've had our whatever, but he is so perfect for me, and so incredible. And I think that I came from a very chaotic home, so I'm very attracted to chaos. And so I think I start to vibrate when something is like too good.
Lab, would you say you have an addictive personality?
No,
also?
I know what this
I'm
is.
sorry. She says she starts to vibrate when it feels really good.
Oh my god.
You almost have like a chaos brain.
I think what I
do you
have is
feel like you miss a toxic outcome in fights?
yes. And I love my partner too much to start like to unload that on him. So I've been like I have like a very like I guess narcissistic side to me, and that I don't
Super
want
common.
to display around my partner.
Facts.
And then a side of me that I do like I'm very nurturing, I'm very motherly, and I think I'm a great partner to Connor in a lot of ways.
So, can I just ask, is it not normal for people when they go through a relationship, they go through their honeymoon phase and they fall in love, they start to settle into it? After a couple of years, you start to maybe have some second doubts every now and then, just because of the fact that, like, as you settle into the normalcy of it, the excitement that you initially feel kind of fades off. So it's kind of natural for people around the 2 to 3 year mark to start considering open relationship briefly. And so it's very likely that that's what she went through. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's
after a while, you
3 to
if I'm gonna
5
be
and
with
the
her for
7
the
years.
rest of my life, can I just get a little bit pussy before we close down the doors? So it makes sense.
Yeah, I think this
But
happens
do you
3,
honestly
5,
think that
and
people
7.
are doing this?
I don't
But,
think. I think people think about it very, very often. I don't think people do it nearly as often.
Yeah, but they
I
keep
think
it to
there's
themselves.
something
Like
else
certainly
that
don't
goes
tell their
on here.
partner.
No, because like if every dude just came up to you and just been like, "Listen, man, I love you and shit," but like, I don't know, I want some side pussy just to find out, make sure, That's why oftentimes people, they get some strange and they never tell their partner,
But you sound like you're saying
I
that
am
like
getting cucked.
ladies in a relationship never have these.
Oh, no.
You just said like sometimes men
My
want
apologies.
some stuff on the side.
My apologies. I think ladies also get these emotions.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so I think, and this was going to be our original conversation, Lav, because I am super interested in people who decide to open. And from what you're telling me, I would be curious, for you, when you do fight with your partner, and maybe it doesn't feel as satisfying because it doesn't have that sort of toxicity attached to it, do you find that having those toxic exchanges, do you find that that's where maybe some passion is missing for you?
And no. So I think that I've realized that passion. I think that there's things that are like very fickle in life, and I think that like passion is like one of them. I think that passion is just distraction ultimately, and I'd like to live in like my own body and in the now and enjoy like the fruits of my relationship with my partner instead of being in pursuit of this like thing that because
the hedonistic stuff.
You feel passion when you're like in fear mode. It's like fight or flight. And that's not what love love doesn't feel like that. Like I think that
healthy love should not feel like that. But people who have been in toxic relationships, whether it's paternal or romantic, we do form a sort of like chaotic brain that misses it.
I think you
Carrie,
can
healthy love
absolutely
is an
you can
oxymoron.
absolutely form like passionate loving relationships that can still maintain passion. It doesn't always have to be unhealthy.
No, you absolutely can, but you have to learn how to do that.
I don't know. I would say that me and my fiance's relationship is actually very passionate. I don't think. I think that sometimes people, especially people who grow up, people who grow up in like chaotic homes, especially, I think start to conflate conflict and passion and think that they're synonymous. And I don't think that they're. What's very passionate to me is like when I'm having a panic attack and Connor knows exactly what to do. Like,
I mean, that sounds like conflict. Not gonna lie.
Sure, no, but that's like my own internal conflict, and then him coming.
Yeah, but that's still conflict.
Sure.
So that's just someone offering care to their partner.
Sure, but she's feeling internal conflict. Like she finds her internal conflict in him resoluting that like passionate. Someone else might find interpersonal conflict passionate as well, just because there's a heightened sense of emotion. I think both those cases can be made. So yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like turbulent, but I wouldn't say that that's like conflict. I think that's an example of like your partner coming to support you.
True.
I also think it's the opposite of conflict, because he like Connor will come into the bath while I'm like vibrating. Sorry, I use vibrating.
Oh my god.
Sorry. While I'm having a panic attack, and he'll like do breath work with me. Which to me just feels like the ultimate embodiment of love, and that feels like very passionate to me.
Would you say your relationship is delicious?
Yes, I would.
It's juicy.
Also juicy, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's.
No. She's not at the right age for juicy anymore. Wrap that shit up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she's an ancient woman. You know, she's 24.
She's not ancient. She's just not ancient. It's like, listen, it's like when you get the fruit just at the right time, that's when it's got the most amount of juice. A couple days after, it's still edible and good, but it's not as juicy. There's a difference.
Okay, so can I write you down?
Yeah, you're
as
barely
a
edible,
poster,
Ab.
Abba?
What would you say? What do you want to say?
Can I write you down as a ye poster?
A ye poster? What's that?
It aligns with you. Just trust me.
I will say, Cherry, you're fascinating to me. You're the only person I know who can come into a call and call somebody like a flip-floppy bitch, and then afterwards do like almost counseling therapy for their relationship. This shit's crazy, bro.
Jesus Christ.
I'm super interested in this stuff. I'm usually not like as combative as I tend to be with Lav, but when we disagree, I get triggered.
I just never seen like go from like you whore, and then it's just like, so tell me about Connor.
Being egoic.
To be fair, I am mentally ill, Abba. I don't know if you've been keeping up.
What does that mean?
She has borderline, like the actual worst type of mental illness.
Yeah.
Shout out to borderline. All right.
So I can get triggered, I can go off, but I can usually be fine within like 30 minutes, an hour.
Not always.
Would you consider your borderline
Not
episodes
always.
like a fit of passion or just like mental health issues?
I don't know. I'm still exploring my mental illness and the cause of it.
Word.
Oh, joined.
Dope.
Oh shit! Did the one girl come? Oh, it's Kyla. Fuck.
That's what she said.
The crazy Australian girl.
Good one, Abba.
Nina.
Fuck. What's up? Kyla.
Who's straight arrayed?
She's the girl from the University of Texas. People thought she was smart initially, and then I took her on stream, and I absolutely fucking dismantled the fuck out of her. And now she's trying to regain her orbital status.
Can I just screech? Egoic's a word.
What
Egoic's
happened? He's spreading
a word.
misinformation.
I googled it, Kyla.
No,
oh my god, I'm losing my brain.
What's a word? I can't hear anything. Wait, what did you say? Hello?
Hi.
What's a word?
I was egoic.
Egoic.
Very like every time Lab says it, people roll their eyes, and Erin's been like, egoic. He's just making up words. It's just a real word. It's a good word for what she's describing.
No, I didn't say she was
Wait, what was the advantage of using the word egoic over egotistical?
Because they're very different in what they mean. Egotistical does have this negative connotation.
Yeah, but she was describing
She was
describing egotistical. She literally, if you go back to the clip, she literally goes on to say the negativity of being egoic because it's selfish.
True.
Yeah, she just said, I'm just going to use the word egoic because it sounds nicer. It's the difference between saying torture versus enhanced interrogation mechanisms or whatever.
Of it. I think it's, and I was using it in a self-sabotage way, and also
okay, exactly.
And like a spiritual way.
Sure, egotistical can be self-sabotaging. Sure.
Yes. I do want to say.
I used the word correctly. You could use them interchangeably, but I used the word completely correctly. Die.
That is the point of the word. If you can use it interchangeably with a word that means something different.
You can't. True. The point of egoic is that it shouldn't be used interchangeably with egotistical.
Then fuck you, Kyla.
Okay, that's how loud was using it.
Okay, that's fair. The problem is that, like, that's fair. Maybe
the problem, it's not a problem. We were, it was admitted, it was an accurate eye roll.
Kyla, Kyla, can you turn on your camera and eye roll right
Shut
now?
up. Oh my God, stop. We're not doing
What?
misogyny.
No, I just asked her to eye roll. What's your problem?
I remember pretty distinctly Erin saying people are just making up words.
She
And
did
I
not say that. I said that a new word just dropped. And then I asked Lav to explain the way that she's using it. And then she said that she's using it in place of egotistical because she said egotistical sounds mean. That's it.
Listen, to be fair, the word did not just drop. Erudite has complimented her on the use of this specific word before on stream.
Holy crap.
Nah, you know what? I'm triggered.
Really?
No, I'm triggered.
Yeah.
Destiny, why did you just immediately ascribe to me some desire to want to see her?
Because you did.
I wanted to see her eye roll. Do you not know the difference?
I don't believe you.
What is the difference?
See, this is a problem, Destiny. You're doing that Mr. Girl thing where you're ascribing to me an intentionality that I myself don't have. You actually just did it. Do you not see that?
I know what was going on
Well,
here.
what-
That's the
wait,
difference,
what
though.
is
I
the
actually know what you were thinking.
Here's the thing.
You're a little
I know what you were
right now,
thinking.
Abba.
The reason
Listen how
why-
defensive you're getting. Abba, you're projecting your
No,
frustration with the
Destiny, I
situation
think this is important. This is
onto
important.
me right now. Do you not realize what you're doing to yourself?
Okay, well, you're trying it. It's not working. I'm actually serious about this portion. I think it's interesting that I made a recommendation to her that you assumed inherently was based off of sex, when in reality, I really wanted her to eye roll because she came here in defense of a word and got mad at other people for eye rolling when actually the eye roll was justified. So me saying do it, you inherently assumed. So I can't even be in the space, right, and do these kinds of things without people inherently assuming it's some form of misogyny or some kind of creepy thing. I was just with Kyla on a live stream for a whole time. Like, who cares? It's not a big thing to me to see her on stream. So I need you to acknowledge that there are times where you may ascribe people misogyny when you're actually incorrect, and that your meter for misogyny is not nearly as good as you think it is.
The point of stopping the misogyny wasn't to stop when we intend to be misogynistic or not. It was to stop things that could be interpreted as misogynistic. And there are a lot of Coomers in my audience that objectify Kyla, and I think it's disgusting. So anytime somebody makes references, like Sneeko saying 50 million times to fucking Lav, turn on your cam, turn on your cam, turn on your cam, I try to stay away from those things, okay?
That's fair, and you can say it could appear
we know Abba wasn't
misogynistic.
meaning it that way. Hold on, we know Abba wasn't.
No,
meaning it that
he
way.
really thought I was meaning it that way. But he's
There's
not. He's not.
thought.
No. He's not thinking when he said it.
I don't
he's not
know if you
thinking-
mean it that way or not, but I know the chat will interpret
when he
it that
said
way.
it, no. When he said it, I know that he was thinking basically. He wasn't thinking like, "Oh, this appears inappropriate." He was thinking I was saying it in that sense.
Are you saying that he's white knighting right now?
Are you saying no, Stephen? I'm doing exactly what you just did to me by ascribing to you an intentionality that you.
Yeah,
actually
but the
did.
difference is I actually know what's going on in your mind, okay?
Okay, first of all, if Abba wants to objectify me, he's welcome to. It's fine with me.
Stop! No,
Second
it's
of all-
not welcome.
No, it's not. I would not do
Abba
that
wants
because
to. It is fine. It's not the end of the world. It's not.
It's the end of my world. This
Yeah,
is my
the
world and it's
difference-
ending.
Hold on. The difference is that
consent.
when Nico was asking Lav about what she looked like, it was misogynistic because he was basically just trying to disrupt her flow of consciousness and her ideas and just be like, "What are you wearing? Put on your camera."
It was
Whereas, like,
way
Abba-
worse than that. It was way worse than that. Could you imagine if Lav had been saying to Sneeko, like, turn on that camera, baby boy, and had been, like, bugging him about it? I think everyone would rightfully see how freaking creepy that was for him to be doing
absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
that's
saying
what Abba just did.
In this moment is totally different.
Hey, his request was narrow and
He was
tailored.
trying to get-
This is why they call him
Eye roll. That's
Laba, okay? L.
Why don't you call me Schnabba afterwards? No, listen. I think Destiny, you thought I was being weird or creepy in some type of way. I don't think you were thinking about the audience, and I thought that was interesting.
Oh, well, you'd be wrong. Now you're doing what Max does. Now you're the one doing it by trying to ascribe my
Okay, but
inner thought
I want
when
you-
you
I
didn't
want you-
actually know.
Here's the thing. Here's the
miss
difference.
Matt.
Here's the difference. Here's the difference.
Uh-huh.
I want you to just answer honestly, and if you tell me that you didn't think that, then I'll acknowledge I was wrong and I'll let it go. So,
Well, fuck. Well, but now I'm incentivized. Honest to God?
I
No,
know you're
wait, wait.
incentivized,
Well,
but
no,
I'm operating on
honest,
a-
no, no,
I'm operating
wait,
on
yeah.
trust.
Honest to
I'm operating
God,
on trust.
I didn't think you did. I'm just trying to avoid all mention of that because there have been several times in the stream when I've made comments and then I had to meet. I was like, fuck,
Okay.
I should have made that joke because even though I don't think I'm thinking misogynistic thoughts, there are like times where I'll like gravitate towards like comments or whatever.
Okay, then I will concede to you that I was wrong, and I will trust your word for it that you didn't mean that, and that we're good.
Okay, can you apologize?
So what's an example of a
just kidding.
joke
I'm
that
just
you really
kidding.
regretted, Destiny?
I don't know, but there have been a couple that I think I made where it's like, that's probably not a good one. I don't
Oh, if
remember.
there's so many, I think you can think of one right now. Come on, if you have just like so many that you can think of where you were like, oh, that
There
went too
aren't
far.
so many because I'm not that misogynistic. There's probably comments Lab made about doing like OnlyFans or posting nudes. And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
what is
do
that
it, babes.
pivot? We're not talking about Lav. We're talking about you and your, you know.
No, I'm talking about
misogyny.
comments I've made, and I think
about
Lab
that.
probably made a comment earlier about doing sex work or something or posting nudes, and I was like, yeah, base, do it or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't say that. That's what I'm talking about.